Thank y'all for being here tonight. We obviously, our rec board's up here, and then this meeting is obviously up to the general public. This is the result of the recreation feasibility market analysis that we did with Gonzalez and Associates in Victus. And wanted to kind of explain how we got here. So we decided to do a market and feasibility study and master plan for the property at 32 and 13. We put out RFQs to companies, requests for proposals, quotes, RFPs, requests for proposals. And they submit those. We have an evaluation team at the city engineer, myself, rec board members that evaluate those, and that's how we select the folks who are going to do this study. So that's how Robin and Walter got here. So what this first step is we did the online survey. We met with stakeholders from the rec board, from youth sports leagues, from other sports organizations, from the chamber, Baldwin County EDA, all kinds of folks, met with folks, got their input on recreation and Fairhope. Then we did the online survey, which we received a little over about 650 results on the online survey, which is fantastic. I'm excited to get those. So all that information is compiled into this market analysis and feasibility study. It will tell us what people want to see at that property. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything that you hear, because people are used to having their own facility, have their facilities like youth football. Youth football makes not say they need anything there. But that's just the thing I'm trying to explain it. Sometimes this is about new things, new opportunities that we can do with that property, other opportunities that we can do, things that we can expand. So I don't want anybody to be, I guess, upset if they don't hear something about a specific sport, because there are things that we can do with that property that will service a lot of different sports. And I think that's what you'll see. One of the things this study is going to talk about is, do we want to do sports tourism? What does that look like? What do we have to do to be successful to do sports tourism? So you'll hear some of that in here. Again, this is not necessarily, I don't mind us opening up questions at the end, but this is not for additional input on what we want to see at that property. We have gathered all that information. From here, the rec board and the council will vet this study, and then they will work with them to do a master plan for that property. Okay, we kind of build it out. From what I understand, we're probably going to build it out in phases, because we're not going to have unlimited dollars to build everything we want to see there. So we'll look at a phased approach to be able to build that out. I don't think there was any surprises. I think we all kind of assumed what the study showed us right now. Okay? Anybody have anything for me? Everybody comfortable? Is all good?
Okay, before I turn it over to Walter, I'm Robin Gregory, I'm with Gonzalez Strength and Associates. I'm a land planner and landscape architect at Gonzalez Strength. Does engineering, planning, landscape architecture, obviously surveying work. So we're based out of Hoover, Alabama. And Walter, just so you know, the market research part is the first part. After that, we take that information after we get all the input. And with that information, we decide at that point, okay, we'll generate a master plan. This will be a conceptual master plan. Look at from a physical standpoint, what actually can fit on the side of the park, any trails, and what happens at the side. And after we have that master plan, we'll have a cost estimate. This will be what we're planning to do cost estimate for approximately what the cost of the overall park is going to be. And then we're going to have some conceptual renderings done by an architect or James King Architects, very prominent group of architects to say that the product with us. We're familiar with Sand Mountain Park. We worked on that project, so great architects to have on our team. We'll do some of the renderings, and that will be part of this full report that will happen after we go through the market research. So I got Walter on the line here. Walter's going to go through most of the presentation. Hopefully, if you have any questions, we're going to wait till the end.
Let's wait.
Yeah, please wait till the end to solve those questions, and then go ahead and kind of go through the market research part.
All right, Walter, I don't know, have you heard any of that? You're still good? Are you ready? Okay. Okay. All right.
You're on mute.
Okay. All right. Can you unmute it?
I apologize.
Okay,
I
no
thought I
problem.
unmuted it earlier, so excuse me.
Okay.
All right. Well, good
Yeah, you
afternoon,
probably-
yeah.
And Walter, you also probably need to speak up pretty well as well.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
It's piped through everything. I think everybody can hear him okay? Yeah, I think.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Can you guys hear me okay?
So Walter, I don't know if you heard the mayor, but she said that this is being recorded and it's going to be posted on the website. So that's going to be
Okay.
taken as well. So Walter, I'll turn it over to you. This is Walter with Victus Advisors. Brian Conley was at our public meeting that we had, I guess, what was it, a month and a half ago or so, 2 months ago.
No,
So
that was
this
actually
is,
me. That was actually me that was in attendance. So I had a chance to speak with you guys before the national championship game with Riley Leonard. I don't want to bring back bad memories, but that was I remember that conversation very well.
all right. Okay, well, let's go ahead and begin. Walter, go ahead and go
Okay.
through the report. I think we're all keyed up and ready to go.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Robin. And
Sure.
it's good to speak with all of you today. I can't see any of you, but I met with many of you and the mayor, Mayor Sullivan, like I said, about a month and a half ago when I came in to town to speak through this public engagement period. I think it was the week before you guys had your major winter storm. So hopefully it's very hot over there. It's still kind of cold in Utah, but anyway, had this opportunity to conduct this market study for a potential new sport complex to be located in Fairhope. And part of our role, as Robin spoke to a little bit a few minutes ago, was really to assess what the market demand could be for this type of facility, what both the local opportunities and benefits could be for Fairhope residents and to an extent residents in Baldwin County. And also, is there a potential for sports tourism activity and generating economic impact for the city through sports tournaments and events that would be bringing people from from out of town? So I know the mayor has looked at the report. A few others have as well. It's a lengthy report. It's a little bit over 100 pages. So I won't go page by page, but this is more an exercise to kind of discuss the main takeaways and key findings from our market study report and really focus on what the results found and some options that we recommend that the city consider to be able to have a sustainable facility that again will principally benefit the local community and also potentially spur some economic impact as well. So in terms of just going through our study methodology, we looked at the site, the current site that's being proposed, that's a little bit over 100 acres inside of Fairhope. We spoke with the mayor, we spoke with other stakeholders as well from the city. We spoke with local and regional sports groups to get an understanding of what their assessment was of sports facilities that are available within Fairhope and within Baldwin County, and also competitive facilities that local travel teams or event organizers are using within the Southeast for their sports tournament activity, and to get their assessment of, is Fairhope a market that's attractive to them for being able to host events. And as Mayor Sullivan had mentioned, an online survey was conducted with over 600 residents, which I think is a great response rate. Typically, in larger markets, we really struggle sometimes to get above 200 responses. So that just really shows the interest and the residents really feeling that this is something in a study that they resonate with, and they feel that they wanted to give their feedback. So we got a lot of good feedback from that survey as well. After our interview process, which is primary research data, gathering as much information from those interviews, we also conducted secondary market research data, which was looking at demographic and socioeconomic analysis and trends with the Fairhope and Baldwin County area. We also looked at what the local facilities that are currently available, both again in Fairhope and Baldwin, because a lot of residents in Fairhope are using facilities that are located within Baldwin County. We also looked at comparable markets and facilities, and then ultimately through all these inputs, we were able to identify, what the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats were for Fairhope, and ultimately make some recommendations that the city should consider. Again, just highlighting where the project site is, which I think everyone knows, at the intersection of County Road 13 and County Road 32. It's one of the key advantages of that is that there is a lot of land, and so it really gives the opportunity. So if the city were to move forward with the development, you really have a lot of flexibility to really maximize usage. You're not restricted by just having 13 acres or something smaller, where we need to make sure that this is right and But with the fact that it's over 100 acres, there's really a lot of flexibility, a lot of creative use to really make it a destination, not just for residents, but potential also for visitors from outside of the community. I'm going to jump real quick to our main takeaways from this market. So I'm going to go here, jumping quickly to two things here I wanted to show with the drive time map. So if any parents are present right now, they're very well familiar with driving their children and their athletes to practices during the week. Typically, through our research, there's two different drive times, and it's usually between 15 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is usually the maximum that parents are willing to drive to take their kids for practices during the week. In other communities that are very rural, you're typically looking at, some parents are used to driving an hour or more every day or several times a week just to take their children to practice. But this is typically that window, that 15 to 30 minute drive time. And as you can see here, as you expand out beyond 15 minutes to about a 30-minute drive time of the project site in Fairhope, you're drawing well over 150,000 people that live within that drive time zone. So it's safe to say that if a facility were to be developed that were the right size and the right fit and had the right amenities for the community, that from just a local standpoint, from a weekday practice usage, you could probably be drawing people from outside of Fairhope as well. As we look into the sports tourism angle, this is for people that are traveling from outside of Baldwin County, that are going to be most likely staying in a hotel for a night or two for weekend tournaments. As you can see here, within that 2.5-hour drive time, typically that's for day trippers that would be traveling for an event. But beyond that, that's the people that are going to be staying overnight. So you're reaching out almost into Atlanta, to the northeast, to the southwest, into Louisiana, up into Mississippi to the northwest, and into Florida on the eastern side. And so within a 2.5-hour drive time of the project site, you're looking at over 2.5 million. And over nearly 12 million when you expand that out to a 5-hour drive time. The one consideration here with the drive time with Fairhope is that it's located on the Gulf. And so you have a geographic restriction here, which may not be common, say, if you were to draw this same map in Atlanta, where you're able to draw from multiple states, from the northwest, east, and south. In this case, with Fairhope, you are restricted essentially to the east, to the west, and to the north, but you can't draw anyone from the south. So that is one consideration. So you're limited in the amount of people you're able to attract. Typically in other areas where you don't have an ocean or a body of water, you're able to draw upwards of 15 to 20 million people that within that drive time. So that's one consideration to consider for sports tourism and being able to draw. And so with any facility that's developed here, if the aim is to generate economic impact, you really need to have the right partnerships and relationships, because the opportunities are going to be north and east and west of Fairhope. One of the other key things that we wanted to highlight, and that was mentioned by various people that we spoke with as well, not just local event organizers, but also with stakeholders, is the lack of of inventory for hotel rooms. So as you can see here, there are four hotel marketed rooms in Fairhope. The first one that has 405 rooms, Grand Hotel Golf Resort and Spa, is not necessarily your sports tourism family type hotel. And so as you can see here, it does really well, 70-80% occupancy on most weekends year round. But the price range is really what ends up not being, again, aimed towards a sports tourism traveler. The sports tourism traveler is usually bringing 3 to 4 people with them, their family. It ends up doubling as their family vacation. And they're going to be most likely staying at a Hampton Inn, excuse me, or a Holiday Inn, Springfield Suites, that have the free breakfast, that might have an indoor and outdoor pool that's easy to get in, easy to get out, et cetera. And so there's a lack of those types of hotels in the market. Later on in the report, we'll show you kind of an example of how many hotel rooms would be necessary to be able to capture hotel activity. But that was just kind of a recurring theme that we received from various people we spoke with as part of our interview process, is that they said, we like Fairhope as a community, as an area geographically, but the hotel infrastructure just isn't there in order to service the types of events that we bring, because many of these events are bringing in anywhere between 80 to 100 or more teams on a weekend, and so you're needing hundreds of rooms. And if you're only considering the Hampton Inn, the Holiday Inn, and Key West Inn, it's less than 250 rooms available on a given night. And so you can't have the sports tourism take up all the inventory in one night for a community, because you're going to have travelers and weddings and other things as well. Again, just the conclusions from this area. Again, there's a higher median household income, which is a great indicator within Fairhope and Baldwin County, because higher median household income usually identifies with families that have more discretionary income for sports and entertainment and recreation. But overall, though, from regional drive time zone, you do have some geographic limitations, which can potentially impact the overall potential for sports and event tourism. I'll just jump here real quick, as Mayor Sullivan already talked about, that we spoke with various different groups, again, stakeholders, local sports groups, event organizers, community survey, but I'll jump to the end here to keep rolling with our summaries. In terms of the feedback that we got from, right here with the stakeholders, a lot of emphasis was placed that Fairhope is growing both in indoor and outdoor sports. A lot of the existing facilities are overbooked, and that the city, in fact, needs more inventory to keep up with the demand. And again, this is just strictly for a recreational standpoint, which is really tied into quality of life and really being an incentive for people to move to Fairhope, is having the availability, for sports activity, not just for youth, but also for adults as well. And so there was demand for a large recreational sports facility that could feature multi-use courts, in addition to some outdoor rectangular fields, to be able to cater to these groups. And that was echoed as well, as I jump here to the conclusions from the local sports groups that we spoke with, that there is interest in a new sports complex. Some of the groups emphasized that what's currently available is insufficient. They mentioned that there's need for at least multi-use basketball courts. Many of them are traveling to the Foley Sports Complex in Foley. Additional rectangular football fields, and additional soccer fields. Typically with soccer groups, they end up taking kind of control of the majority of the larger soccer complexes in any community. And so what happens is groups like football, lacrosse, other groups that use rectangular fields end up essentially being shut out from that access from those fields. So they're usually the ones that are asking, hey, just give us 2 to 3 more fields with turf, so that we can be able to expand our programs. From an event organizer standpoint, we spoke with a lot of groups that have held events in Foley and Daphne, and I'll jump here to their main conclusions as well, where again, there is some interest, but again, the overarching theme with them was that there was concern that you already have the Foley Sports Tourism Complex in Foley, you have outdoor fields and an outdoor complex also in Foley, also in Daphne. We've established relationships with them. Yeah, maybe we could use, a facility, a tournament here or there, but, it'd have to be a larger facility, but also too, if we were to host tournaments here, you guys don't have the hotel infrastructure. And ultimately too, what you want to avoid is if you develop a facility without having the hotel infrastructure, you're going to suffer economic leakage. So they might travel to Foley for a tournament, but if they stay in Daphne or in Foley or somewhere else, then you've kind of, limited the purpose, and you're helping other communities from a tax revenue standpoint, but not really helping your community by developing that facility. You're doing them a favor. Again, they expressed an interest in using indoor and outdoor space, but nothing from a large scale. Some of them said, hey, yeah, maybe I can host a few tournaments here and there. Others said, it depends on what the facility looked like, but it wasn't something where, there was a significant demand where said, yeah, this is something that's lacking in the area. Mainly because they already have existing relationships with other facilities that are located in Baldwin County. From the community survey standpoint, I'll just kind of show you some information here in terms of overall impressions. I'll jump here real quick so you understand what that rating chart looks like. So we use a 7-point scale for our surveys. So this is a best-in-class approach to satisfaction measurement. So typically, if someone rates something positively, they're going to say a 7 or 6. If they're kind of neutral about it, it's going to be a 5 or a 4. And if it's really bad, it's a 3, 2, or 1. And so we separated those in 3 boxes. So what the average score is, you can see here, if it's excellent, they're going to get a score of 80% or above. Average is between 50 to 65%, and below average is less than 50%. When the city asked Fairhope residents, their overall impressions on different factors for sports and recreation facilities in Fairhope, the factor that received the highest score was opportunities for youth to participate in a wide variety of recreational opportunities. So that's a positive, but then when you look back to this chart from our ratings, that's only average. So none of the features here were rated as good or excellent. And in fact, a lot of them were actually below average. If you see here, after that, the amount of sports recreation facilities was 40%, and all the other factors were less than 40%. So that's usually an indication that, residents think that, additional facilities are needed. Providing more access to the community are things that obviously matter to them a great deal. In terms of, I'll jump here to the main conclusions from this section. The majority of the households in Fairhope participate in recreational activities. A lot of them, as I mentioned here, over 50% of the respondents travel outside of Fairhope for recreational activities, and a lot of them are still traveling or staying within Baldwin County. So they're using the sports tourism complex. They're using the outdoor complex in Daphne, and some of them even travel to Mobile. I said that right, hopefully. Last time at the public engagement, I had a few people correct me multiple times for mispronouncing it, so I apologize in advance. But one of the things that's really key here is 87% of the respondents supported the idea of the city of Fairhope building new public recreation spaces. So again, they're not looking at this from a sports tourism standpoint, but from this is for us. 87%, which is a very high number, supported that idea. To be able to, again, quality of life, having access to those facilities. What was desired most for a new recreation space was adult fitness programs and classes. So again, having this recreation center component where they have access to indoor space was very high on the list or desires for this facility. So from local sports facility analysis, so we treated local, I'll jump here a little bit. So it's not just facilities that we looked at within Fairhope. We also wanted to highlight facilities that are within Baldwin County, since again, a lot of residents from Fairhope are traveling to these facilities. The ones that were mentioned the most, as you can see here, and I mentioned a little bit ago, is the Foley Sports Tourism Complex, the Foley Sports Complex, and also the Daphne Sports Complex. Those are the ones that have essentially established themselves as sports tourism facilities, but also they're being utilized by local groups for practices and games. I'll jump here to the end so you can see kind of what that looks like from an overall scale. As you can see here from Diamond Fields, Volanta Park has 10 fields, and in speaking with the local baseball groups, they feel that that's sufficient for their needs. They're not looking to host major, baseball tournaments, but it's what they need for their local programs. From a rectangular field standpoint, the largest one in the area is the Foley Sports Tourism Complex. You do have the Fairhope Soccer Complex at 9 fields, and the soccer group does host some tournaments. As you can see, they host 2 tournaments each year. But again, in terms of being able to host maybe football tournaments and other rectangular sports tournaments, it's not as accessible because it's principally used by soccer groups, by the Fairhope Soccer Club. The biggest gap here that you can probably identify here is the basketball courts, which could be convertible to at least 6 or more volleyball courts. Really, there's no, aside from the Fairhope Recreation Center and basketball court, the Foley Sports Tourism Complex, there really isn't very much space, and that was echoed by many groups that we spoke with. Also, we've seen through the survey analysis that one of the sports that people really want to see grow is volleyball, and there's been a major explosion of volleyball, specifically girls volleyball, on a national scale, and a lot of volleyball groups want to grow in very, very many communities, but unfortunately, because they don't have access to those spaces, they're essentially stunted and they're not able to expand programs. And kind of the the feedback that we receive from speaking with local sports groups is, again, that they feel that they're capped with their growth because they don't have adequate access to indoor space to be able to expand their program. So for them, having access to indoor spaces is key to their growth. And if Fairhope is growing, that's one consideration is, can we match that growth and provide the growing population with the amenities that they need to also, grow their programs and thus increasing quality of life from a physical health standpoint. In terms, again, Baldwin County, when you look beyond Fairhope, there are established complexes as well. But from a local standpoint, for recreational space within Fairhope, that's where we assess that there is definitely a need. In terms of comparable facilities, we looked at both indoor sports centers and also outdoor sports facilities within the Southeast region, that could be facilities just to look at and see, is this something that Fairhope could potentially model? And the facilities that were most mentioned by local groups that they travel to or event organizers that they frequently use, as you can see. Then again, we didn't include Foley Sports Complex here because it's local, considering that it's within Baldwin County. So that's why Foley Sports Tourism Complex has been benefiting, because as you can see, there's a significant gap in indoor sports locations between Louisiana and up to Birmingham. And so Foley Sports Tourism has as they term, the first mover advantage, that they were first in this general area. And so they're taking advantage of that. But the population base in the region is something to consider if you were to develop something similar as a direct competitor to the facility. From I'll jump here to outdoor fields. And you can see here again, from a court standpoint, to be able to really draw larger regional and even national events, you really need to have at minimum 8 basketball courts or 8 volleyball courts to be able to draw 100 teams on a weekend or more. And as you can see here, Finley Center in Hoover has 11 basketball courts. Lake Point Sports, and I mean, this is outside of the Atlanta market, but you can see there 12. And then the Sand Mountain Park and Amphitheater, which has 4 basketball courts, but those convert to 8 volleyball courts, which makes it appealing for hosting volleyball tournaments. The convention center, so what's interesting about that one is they do host volleyball tournaments, which is more common to host volleyball tournaments in larger convention centers, not so much for basketball tournaments, but that's starting to become a thing of the past. Often, in the early 2000s, in the mid 90s, it was much more common to host those types of larger tournaments in convention centers. But you're starting to see, because communities have seen the benefit of sports tourism, you're starting to see more dedicated indoor sports facilities that just do sports, and they don't do, expos and essentially convention centers, but they have actual indoor sports centers that cater specifically to events. So that's why we didn't put the actual number, of course, because it really just depends on the type of event that they're running. But a lot of the groups that we spoke with use the convention center in New Orleans for basketball, for more so for volleyball tournaments, in addition to pickleball tournaments, as you can see right there. Jumping into the outdoor sports complexes again, so you can see here that the closest outside of Baldwin County is the Panama City Beach Public Sports Park. But again, there's a significant gap, between Fairhope, and everything goes up towards the north in Birmingham and also into Atlanta. Again, I'll jump here just so you can see the number of fields. That's very similar to what we were discussing with the indoor sports facilities. From a rectangular field standpoint, again, it needs to be at least 5 or more fields. You can see Merrimack Soccer Complex in Huntsville has 18 rectangular fields. Wire Road Soccer Complex has 11. And then from the ball diamond standpoint, Panama City Beach, they're focusing on on baseball and softball. And so they have 10 ball diamonds. And so that's significant consideration as well. So with all those inputs that we mentioned, the primary and secondary market research and understanding the characteristics of the Fairhope market, we were able to identify specific strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats to consider on how to assess Fairhope as a sports tourism market. So quickly, the strengths is the location and access. So it's a desirable location. There's a brand and reputation for Fairhope that was mentioned consistently with a lot of the people that we spoke with. The quality of the existing facilities. Again, in this case, we're considering Baldwin County, and that you already have, the sports complexes in Foley and also in Daphne, and also too, you're getting a lot of sports growth. You have a stronger median household income in the area, so there is discretionary income. The weaknesses, though, is that there is a lack of local indoor sports facilities available for local groups. So this is now specifically with the city of Fairhope. We had mentioned a little bit as well, just the lack of affordable family lodging options, or the lack of that inventory, and also the smaller tourism drive time range population. And again, that's mostly a geographical thing based on the position of Fairhope. The major opportunity, I spoke to this a little bit a month and a half ago when I came for the public engagement session, is sports tourism is just a growing market, and it's one of the few resilient industries that does well against global pandemics, against recessions, and especially in this day and age, parents are very proactive about having their children active in sports and just being away from their screens. And so you're seeing just an emphasis on, hey, we want you to be involved in baseball or basketball or soccer, or whatever it is. We're going to get you out of the house. And for better or worse, sports in general, it's becoming a legitimate business, youth and amateur sports, where if you really want to take, this isn't me speaking, but just coaches saying, if you really want to take your child to the next level, they need to be on a club team, and those club teams are going to travel. And so you're investing several, thousands of dollars per child a year in these sports activities. And so the parents are saying, well, if we need to travel to Atlanta or wherever for this tournament, you know what, we're going to turn this is going to double as our family vacation. So what else can we do while we're in Atlanta? What else can we do when we're in Fairhope? So we're going to take, dad, the child, and brother and sister with us as well, maybe even grandma and grandpa, because we're going to put everyone in the minivan, and we're going to go drive for 5 or 6 hours, and we're going to be there for not just the weekend, we might even stay a few extra days. So this is an opportunity that Fairhope is really looking to tap into, and they can if it's done correctly. And a lot of communities that we're working with really realize, hey, how do we get into this? How do we get into this? Because they've seen it. A lot of groups, local groups that we speak with, have always talked about, we're always traveling here and there and here and there. We just want to be able to host our own tournaments here for the first time, but we just need the facility to be able to do it. And so, and oftentimes those tournaments end up being fundraising mechanisms for those clubs as well to help sustain their operations. In terms of threats, again, there's pretty heavy regional facility competition with all the facilities that I mentioned specifically within Baldwin County. With the Foley Sports Complex, I think it's just a 30-minute drive from the project site. So that is a pretty significant consideration as well. The other consideration too is, if something were to be developed on the project site, and if you don't have the hotel inventory, and if you also don't have the other amenities such as retail and restaurant, you're going to see significant economic leakage. And I mentioned that earlier. We'll go to Fairhope for a tournament, but we're going to stay in Daphne, or we're going to stay in Foley, or go somewhere else because there's more stuff to do there, or the hotel that we want is going to be there because they have free breakfast or what have you. And so that's a significant threat for Fairhope. And then also just nearby destination communities. There's along the Gulf Shores. A lot of these communities are heavily funded by tourism dollars through heads and beds, because they have the infrastructure, so they have the opportunity to invest in their communities and into potential sports facilities down the road, or other amenities that could be appealing to visitors. So with that, this just kind of highlights or gives in more detail the SWOT analysis that we conducted. But that again led into what the opportunities are for Fairhope. And so again, this is taking into account Fairhope's unique market characteristics, analyzing the competitive facilities, interviews that we've conducted, and also our experience in working in other communities throughout the country for similarly sized and scaled facilities. So from a local need, from an outdoor standpoint, we did find that there's demand for an additional 4 more multi-use rectangular fields that would benefit local youth teams, local clubs. So this is more for the baseball diamonds. Like I said, they're content with what they have, but this would benefit more, potentially help expand soccer programs, but also specifically for football and cheer for their operations to be able to grow their programs. And again, considering that this site is over 100 acres, this is really a strong consideration that we have, is that you have a lot of flexibility to be able to make something happen there. From an indoor sports standpoint, we did find demand for an indoor sports facility that would be more of a recreational concept that could have up to 6 basketball courts convertible to 6 or more volleyball courts. And this was a recurring need for Fairhope youth basketball. Again, we had mentioned interest in volleyball has grown quickly. It was also highlighted and cited as a sport that could benefit the most from indoor space in the survey that was conducted by the responses from Fairhope residents. But there's not enough indoor space to start offering it. So that might be an opportunity where you can see a huge explosion in volleyball growth in the Fairhope community as well. The nice thing too, or the nice benefit with an indoor sports facility from a recreational standpoint, is that you really can invite and get a lot of activity year round, especially during inclement weather, either in the summertime, spring, or even in the wintertime if it's too cold, like you had a major blizzard a month and a half ago. So in those cases, it's really nice to have that indoor access. From a sports tourism standpoint, again, speaking first from the outdoor facility, we didn't find significant demand for an outdoor sports complex. Again, you have the Daphne Sports Complex, the Foley Sports Complex, and the Gulf Shores Sportsplex. A similar facility we feel in Fairhope would face significant competition that ultimately would just wouldn't be sustainable, both locally and also regionally as well, where they would just really oversaturate the market. From an indoor standpoint, we didn't find significant demand for a large, and what I mean by large is, 8 or more courts over 100,000 square feet, that the sole focus is to host major national tournaments and events. That being said, there was some interest, as you saw in the chart that we explained, or that we showed earlier, that there could be some interest for smaller, maybe regional tournaments that Fairhope could potentially host in a hybrid facility. And what we mean by that is really essentially still focused on local recreation and access, but still having the capability to host some tournaments, periodically throughout the year. And we think that this hybrid model might be more sustainable. And so you're not necessarily directly competing with the Foley Sports Tourism Complex, which is just 30 minutes away from the site. And it's already, as I mentioned, established itself as a sports tourism facility in Baldwin County. So with those assessments, we created 2 options here that I'll just run quickly through with you. Is option 1 is, again, considering the site that's available here with over 100 acres that's available. Option 1 would be a recreation center, which is, again, 100% local focus. So this essentially has the 6 basketball courts that are convertible to 12 volleyball courts or 18 volleyball courts, having the outdoor fields that have been requested, also having a fitness center within the rec center and a potential swimming pool that could have recreational swimming, swimming classes, and also competitions from high schools or local county teams that would be looking for, because we know that they're looking for new facilities. Also having a lot of flex rooms for classes, lounge areas, game rooms. So really becoming a community asset that could be used by multiple groups, that could be a destination for people from all ages. One of the trends that we're seeing often with these recreation centers now, with the new ones that are being built, is that they're really multi-use and multi-generational, so that any group, age, demographic in a community is going to use the facility every single day and be using it from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, because there's always something for them to do, whatever your age is. And so we definitely found that type of center is there's demand for that in Fairhope. Additional features that you can have there, again, considering because of the large site, is that was mentioned as well by some users, is having a cross-country running course with walking trails outside. Also having access to not a competitive track, but a running tracks inside or even outdoors for the public, and also for local track and field teams to practice and train. Also, just a lot of space where you could potentially have food trucks, so you can have, outdoor festivals or outdoor, movie nights in the community, and just really activating that space as much as possible so it could become a destination, a community asset and a community destination. From the multi-use sports complex, so this, as you can see here at the top, it's kind of that hybrid that we discussed a few slides before, where really it's 80% local. So the main focus is still local community access, but still trying to get, hey, let's try to get a few sports tournaments here and there that could still generate positive economic impact. Again, so you'll notice similarly here with the gymnasium, you have 6 basketball courts convertible to 12 volleyball courts or more pickleball courts, still having the outdoor fields for access for the soccer and football groups. But now, instead of the other recreational center components with the fitness gym, with the fitness center, with flex rooms, you're having space now for 2 limited service hotels. So these are the hotels that are the Fairfield Inns, Spring Hill Suites, that have around 100 rooms each, that are affordable, that provide free breakfast, that are really sports tourism focused hotels for the traveling family. The other consideration as well, so this kind of goes along to what we discussed by avoiding economic leakage. So if you have this facility and on the site, if you have hotel space, now you're keeping the hotel dollars in the community. But as I mentioned before, these trips end up doubling as vacations. So where are they going to eat, right? So we mentioned here there should definitely be other hospitality amenities like restaurants on site if possible, and also indoor potential locations like an arcade, rock climbing, a ninja course, or a jumping tramp, golf simulator. Outdoor, is there space for a water park, a splash pad, zip line, and also entertainment. So this might be a concept that you may not have heard of, but instead of entertainment, the national concept is entertainment, and that's for active locales where you're doing some type of activity, but also having quite high quality meals. So many of you are probably familiar with Topgolf. I don't know if you're familiar with Chicken and Pickle. Chicken and Pickle is a concept that I'll show. Actually, this is Chicken and Pickle. There's about 10 nationwide, but they're rapidly expanding. Essentially, you have 6 indoor pickleball courts. This is the location that I'm highlighting is the one in Overland Park, Kansas, and that actually happens to be the headquarters for Chicken and Pickle. 6 indoor pickleball courts, 4 outdoor pickleball courts, bars, multiple dining areas. So it's not your typical concession stand where you can get a hot dog, but it's actual fully cooked, prepared meals on site. You get to have big screens. You get to play pickleball while you're playing, and so that's becoming very popular. Another one is Pop Stroke, which is basically like a higher level miniature golf. But again, they have kids playground, full service restaurant, outdoor gaming. They have ice cream. That's becoming very popular. Another one here too is Good Surf. And these outdoor concepts are becoming more popular. So this is basically an outdoor surf park with a wave pool. And then, for good measure, as you can see here, they also have pickleball courts outside as well, which every location seems to want to have one, and then a restaurant and a bar. So that's what the entertainment examples look like. And again, now what you're looking at from this multi-use sports complex is almost becoming a family-friendly community / tourism destination, entertainment district. This is an opportunity where it's going to be a community asset, but also if you're bringing people from out of town for sports tourism, they're going to say, hey, tournament's done, let's go eat real quick right across the street from the indoor outdoor venue, and let's go to the arcade, or let's go to Topgolf, or let's do Chicken and Pickle, and all that money is staying in Fairhope, which is typically what you want and how you mitigate
Hey, Walter.
economic leakage. Yeah.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you, but one thing I want to
Yeah, of course.
mention about that, this is just an option that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Obviously, on each of these different types of little venues that we're talking about, that would have to be something that those developers would want to come and bring to this location. You can see some of these, within the Dallas and other locations here. So you just want to make sure that, that was an idea that we had to kind of tie in and try to make it unique and have something special for the community as an option. So that was something that we wanted to have as a possibility. So this option too could work with it or without that. That was just kind of a side element that they were trying to say could be a possibility as part of that. We would still have to garner approval from that group to come in and say, yes, we want to do this type of facility here. So just want to make sure that was clear. Sorry, Walter, to interrupt.
No, you're fine. No.
But yeah, as we kind of dig into these 2 main options that we come up with, we just want to be very clear as far as what we're talking about.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
thank you
Walter.
for doing that, Robin. And like I said,
Okay.
this is just what we wanted to, as Robin's saying, just to highlight again what the way that we're approaching this is, if you were to consider option 1 or option 2, this is how you're going to be able to maximize usage for both the community. Option 1, like as we mentioned, is really just focused 100% on the community. This one is kind of a hybrid where you're able to do a little bit of both. Again, based on our assessment of the opportunities within Fairhope as a sports tourism destination, we're not recommending necessarily a full-blown sports outdoor, indoor, large sports tourism activity, but this is something that could be kind of a meeting in the middle where you're able to achieve objectives that the city's wanting, that the residents potentially have in terms of having access to indoor space, but also to being a something that can increase quality of life, but also too from a tourism standpoint, keeping those dollars within Fairhope. So we wanted to share this as an option. These are projects that we're working on in other communities and helping them identify what are some opportunities for them to look at. And this is really what's trending now for sports anchored facilities where you have other amenities around to really create a sort of district, so to speak, that becomes a destination for residents, but also for people that are visiting a community.
Right.
So I think, excuse me. So I mentioned this earlier. So this is just kind of a high level example of why, it's important to have the appropriate hotel inventory. So if you'll notice here for current hotel rooms in Fairhope, so this is on a nightly basis. This does not include the Grand Hotel Golf Resort and Spa. It only includes the other 3 hotels that we mentioned. So on any given night, you have 230 available rooms. And as you can see here, for small tournaments, you would basically need about half of the available rooms at Fairhope on a given night for a tournament. A medium-sized one, you basically are above that amount. And for a large tournament, it would be really tough. So that's why through this example, again, just high level, it kind of gives you the understanding of, okay, if we really want to attract medium-sized tournaments that are going to bring, X amount of teams, we need to really have a strong inventory to be able to service those events. So that's why in our recommendation for option 2 is if you were to go for that hybrid model, it would be ideal to have at least one, ideally 2 hotels to be able to help, increase that inventory so that for sports tourism activity, you're able to service the people that are coming and again, minimize or mitigate economic leakage. And with that, sorry, Robin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, is everybody clear on the 2 different options? Do we need to kind of repeat that? Or is everybody good with that? Okay, it sounds like everybody's good with that, Walter.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay.
Going through. I just want to make sure everybody was clear on that.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And since I can't see anyone, hopefully it's not looks of confusion or anything like that. So I'm letting Robin be the judge of that. So hopefully I explained okay.
Yeah, I think so. Everybody clear. Hopefully everybody can hear it.
Question. Well, when y'all look at the feasibility of a park like this, do you include, now you talk about hotels, do you include RV parking as well?
Yes, absolutely. So
part of the first option was the RV.
Yeah.
It could be on either one of these, that could be a money maker, but also when you're traveling for a team, that's great to work.
Would you give us maybe the planning will give us the number of RV spots they think that we should have per field or per youth, however we decide to use it?
Yeah, I think the first question is just making sure everybody's in agreement on RV is going to have, and then we can see how that fits in physically, because now that we have this market report, now this option of saying, hey, do you like more option 1 or do you like more option 2? And then we can take that information and we can physically start looking at, well, how do 4 rectangular fields fit on here and the parking associated with that? A recreation facility, if it's going to have a pool facility and fitness area as a part of that, the square footage required for that, how much parking is going to be required for that. So we can start doing some footprints and looking at that from a physical standpoint, and then come back in and look at, we're going to take the option of trying to put RV in and how much room is left over. We start putting in detention areas and lakes and other amenities as part of it. So we start putting all of those different features together on the site that'll be part of the master planning, looking at it from a physical standpoint. Okay, anything else, Mayor? I think we have.
Would you just remind us how many acres are on this parcel? 150.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a fairly significant amount for the park. So if you're from the same amount of park, that's 165 acres.
That's what I was gonna say, that's the one out.
That's fantastic. Same amount.
Yeah, it's 100 and I've started because it's got kind of pretty much everything.
I've worked on that part, and so, and they spent a significant amount of money on that project.
So it opened in 21, it was $100 million. It's 130 acres, and it consists of an RV park, an amphitheater, 9 outdoor turf diamonds, 5 outdoor turf multi-sports field, an outdoor water park, 16 tennis courts, and 16-hole disc golf course, and multiple playgrounds, and a miracle field.
And the amphitheater is about 5,000 seats. All of the sports fields are synthetic turf. That was the major focus of the master planning project. Daniel's team architects, who's on our team, also did an architecture for the facility.
Did you guys study the road access? Would we have to do significant amount of road work to get that amount of people in and out of there, or roads as they currently are sufficient, you think?
We probably have to add turn lanes, but 32, 13 and over these records, you have to add turn lanes.
Yeah. That would probably be part of the next step, once we say, hey, this is what we want to do. And then as part of that also, this could be phased in, you have a overall master plan, so the first phase, maybe it's the recreation center, the next one's the sports fields, of course, you have the park that goes along with that. And so you can have an overall master plan and you can say, okay, there's 5 phases, phases, about 100 money you have. And you're 1 through 2, this is what you put in, 3 through 4, you put the next part in, and obviously the more money you have, you're going to get a better price the more you put in at the same time. So that's something that we're quite with. Yes, ma'am.
Is competitive swimming not in the second option? I saw it in the first option, but I was wondering, I saw a splash pad in the second option, but I didn't see anything about competitive swimming.
Walter, did you hear that question?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So it usually the reason why we have a competitive competition swimming here, it's not your typical 50-meter competitive swim pool. This is more like your 25-yard for high school events. It's not for the larger USA swimming type events. And these types of swimming pools are typically tied to a larger recreation center. So we didn't include that in this option 2 because this would be more focused on the indoor courts for that indoor court space that's being demanded. And then again, focusing because of the space on the other amenities that could potentially, be an amenity for sports tourism activity. So for the competition swimming pool, again, that really could be used. A typical recreation center will use those same swim lanes that's used for competition also for local programming or just open lap swim as well. So it's kind of a multi-use in that point, but it wouldn't be a 50-meter swim competitions, one that would have like the bulkheads, movable bulkheads and things like that.
But given the great weather we have here, so forth, it's noticeable. You have a great opportunity for an indoor pool and an outdoor pool. And that's something out at the same mountain park in Appleton. Actually has a lazy river around part of it, so you can really kind of bump that outdoor facility, take advantage of that great weather that we have here most of the time, and you can have an indoor pool and an outdoor pool, and kind of tie those two together, which can be critical. And the dynamic to it also costs a lot of money to get it well, so that's something the city will look at from this standpoint. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I think I remember in the presentation for the indoor complex, it was thinking about 100,000 square feet for an indoor complex. For the option 2s, if one of these, the sports, one of these entertainments, if they came in the only average footprint size or, their impervious area.
Walter, did you hear that question?
I heard something. Something about square footage for the entertainment, I think.
Yeah, I think you were looking for more detail on the option two, more the sports tourism focus with the 100,000 square foot. Oh, it'd be 100,000 square foot. Yeah, that's what the recreation center portion of that is larger, indoor facility, and so that's that larger square foot. That's we want to put that on there just so people would understand. Both of these have got recreation centers as part of the option, but the sports tourism one that we looked at, you know, that was not a recommendation because of the things that we've already talked about. You know, get it to 100,000 square foot. Oh, it's strictly on sports tourism. You okay with that, Walter?
Yeah, I kind of heard that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to show you real quick. Oh, sorry, I went out of the full screen mode. I'm going to show you real quick, just for comparison purposes.
What we're talking
For your
about.
eyes. Yeah, let me show you real quick the Foley Sports Tourism Complex here. Where is it? Did I miss it? Oh. Sorry, I have a screen here. Where is it? Okay, so the Foley Sports, it's 104,000 square feet. And that's for the number of courts that they have. So you'd be looking somewhere in that same range. I mean, it ultimately depends on how it's designed. We've seen some facilities that are less, for that amount of courts, it's less than 100,000 square feet. But then you're talking about kind of a really tight space in between courts and things like that. But that's kind of a general, that's probably a good benchmark.
Can you see that okay? Yeah, that's got 6 basketball courts, which can be 12 volleyball courts, 2 locker rooms, meeting flex space, concession stand, and then it also has 16 rectangular fields with lights outside of that. But that's 104,000 square foot, so you can you see the level of magnitude of that.
Didn't y'all say that you need 8 basketball courts to host larger regional tournaments?
That's yes. Is that Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Yes. That's so again, this facility was built. I'm trying to remember. We don't have the information on when it was built, but it was built over 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. With all the newer facilities that are specifically focused on large national tournaments, there are 8 basketball courts or more. Some of them are now like 10 or 12. So again, that's not if it's 6 basketball courts, it's not a deal breaker. But again, you're not going to be drawing the major tournaments. You're going to be drawing smaller, some regional tournaments as well. So it really just depends on the scale of tournaments you're wanting to attract.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I have one question. Is rec sports included in this, or is this just kind of all entertainment area or center? Or?
I think what we have to decide is, are we building it for recreation? Are we building it for sports tourism? Are we building it for a hybrid approach? And I think probably a hybrid is what we need to look at, but you would use it for rec, and this would also build it large enough for it.
So not like all sorts of, like,
Yeah.
it's all we can't use it.
That's right. And that's not, I don't think that would be our intent. It would be open to the public. So.
But you can see based on the number of hotel rooms that we have available by Grand Hotels, because 3, 4, 500 hotels in the cost. But if you take the other ones, we have 230, and for medium-sized tournament, we need 240. So that's where there's hotels with disconnects there between 2 of them. So unless you have other hotels that come in, of course, if I build something on the side, to do that, so here you have to have someone to say, yes, we want to be at that location, so we're going on a hotel at that location.
And if we do this for a rec center, what will happen at the current stage?
We don't need
I'm sure.
I mean, there's some options, you can wait there and build something bigger and new, and then you have 2 facilities. It's a possibility of vacating that one and building a whole big one and using that space for something else. I mean, there's a lot of factors to factor in. But again, because I think this property will be phased, and I think everybody knew that we need gym space. I think that could possibly be the first phase of it, and then we would look at the master plan, phase it, and build everything else out. So I don't think if we, this is just my opinion, I think the first phase would just be a vacant gym. It wouldn't be a rec center. And then if we can add one to it, it'll work to be added on to, then we might do that, but I think the first phase would be the gyms.
Yeah, on the hotel, would you have those on site or just look at the fact on the near site?
You could do either or, but I mean, the plan right now would be probably from on site, they've identified that you need about 2.5 acres per hotel. And so we would go ahead and maybe carve out at least one space there, maybe look for space somewhere else to be able to, just to attract the hotels.
But here again, you have to talk to someone and say, hey, this is the location. They did the study to look at, how many, traffic is at that location. They look at all the different numbers to make sure that it's all.
Do you give them the land or lease them the land or something?
You could do some incentives, I mean, we could do some tax bases, those kind of things, work with our industrial board. But the other thing is you have to, since I've been here, we have not haven't had anybody who just said, came in and said, hey, I want to build a hotel out there. Everybody wants to come in downtown, so I think it's going to be, we have to build something and then we can start attracting. We just have to put the master plan, reserve that property for it.
So and it's not the same thing with the RV portion. It's kind of the same because if you have people, it's got to be very popular right now. More and more Americans are getting older, will be affected by RV, so and I can also kind of help with
But it can also be like, some tennis tournaments. So once we open play courts and you have more room to host some tournaments, maybe our people bring the RV in, they stay out there and they come in and play, tennis. We do some shuttle trips or something like that. So there's some other options to be able to utilize different facilities, even soccer, and be able to start to do RV.
Anybody else just now?
It's never going to start sliding people. It is not, to my knowledge, maxed out.
I see that it's included in 4 fields, which could be multi-use.
Well,
It's not really included. So
But I think when we talk about multi-use fields, we probably need turf fields. I think that's the biggest challenge we have when you have rain. When we built those soccer fields, we cut some corners for cost perspective and did not put the drainage properly. So a lot of times you can't play on those fields because they're not draining. So we would probably need some turf and multi-purpose fields.
Yeah, if you play on one, when it's in muddy conditions or wets it out, then you will do a lot of damage. And so you say you put on a permit and it's all the 20 days it rains, then if you have synthetic turf, then you play, as that first road. So that's really why that's really why some of the cities are doing that. And that's why the Alcohol send out the product, 14 fields and all synthetic. So they started off saying maybe do one baseball field, one softball, and then they said that we want all of them to be synthetic to have that ability to do tournaments under the game.
I'm not a huge fan of turf fields. I mean, I never want to turf any of the current fields that we have. The gas and the standard turf, they all have turf football fields. I'm just not a fan of it. I just like to get grass in South Alabama. But from a rain perspective, we do get almost 70 inches of rain a year. But I understand that sometimes you need those turf fields, but I'm just not a huge fan of them. So that's something, again, we would have to determine. Not huge, they cost almost $1 million to build one turf field. And that turf only lasts about 5 to 7 years, depending on the quality of turf you get. So you have to factor in the fact that every 5 to 7 years, you possibly be replacing $1 million.
it's like it'd be done to make the drainage better. So feel that we have.
A lot of this have to be done in the spring. You have to pull them up, redo the basin, redo the piping.
That would be cheaper than.
I don't know that it'd be cheaper than a turf field, but again, it's not going to be turf.
You mentioned the miniature golf. That would be a good thing to bring back, I think.
Yeah, we got excited about this, what was called entertainment, that's how it comes in. Pretty good. They kind of entertainment to bring something unique to the community, something the community can use, and also have other people come and visit, and this would tie into, kind of an overall sports facility that can be unique and family oriented at the same time.
If we need to attract somebody, once we get the master plan, if that part of it, we decide that's something we want, then we'll be attract developer who built and we come in and we get the ground list and we'll put something like that there. It's going to kind of depend on what it's decided to go there.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just say, I'm a mom of a young child, and I would love the idea of option two. I just want to make sure we don't forget the swimming pool, because my child swims for fast, and there's 350 swimmers, like, every summer. And in an area with as much water as we have, like, it's a life skill for the children here. And then I've taught swim lessons there. It's really, really hard because we have such a large swim team that has like 3 hours of swim practice. That outdoor pool that I feel like we currently have is not sufficient for our city. Like, you know, I'll be there trying to teach swim lessons, and then I love that boys and girls clubs are coming, but like, you can't swim. So I just want to make sure that like, whatever investing this money is in our area, it's a true life skill for our children. We had 3 Olympians from Mobile, Long County recently do that swim for Singapore, but like, we have some talented children that don't have very deep pools at all around here.
You know, I think,
There's some diving wells that I know. And we have a banner in Fairhope, but I don't even know where that person dives. Yeah, Bishop really owned it, and that's terrible, but that's what.
Would you pay our liability insurance?
But like, but he was building a really, really nice big computer, but like, people just want to. Like, they're not gonna be getting meters, I just want to make sure that our children have access to be able to learn to swim.
that's very nice.
And if we keep the current one, we have another one that's still needed.
That's fine. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
No problem with the address, and I apologize if you did. But this property is not currently in city limits.
It is.
It is in city limits. Yes. If being in or out of city limits, that you could get a development.
It is in the city limits. Once we purchased it, they make city limits, just like with the Twin Beach property that we just acquired from the school board, like on the next house, but it's being annexed. So we try to annex every piece of property that the city owns. The only one we haven't been able to is the barn. Arnold football field, and it's because they're part of the Arnold landmark district, and their option for us to get out of it. So.
And we have done some type of analysis, and early physical side analysis, it looks like a very good size, but we got a lot of, like being in Birmingham, you know, there's so much state topography that have flat, it's fantastic, but it looks like it's highly developed. Those part that are so small environment, potentially, I'd love to hit the curve, but other than that, so we're prepared there. That's something.
What do you envision for the community gardens, size wise and content? That's, could we're both all have to go in it?
I don't foresee community gardens on that. It was purchased for recreational purposes, and I don't foresee community gardens on that part.
I saw that it was something there.
It was somewhere as an option.
Yeah, potential. And that came from me because we kind of talking about big things about recreation, talking about ball fields. There's a lot of things that have pop up. And it's something for the track team, the something on business, we'll have that facility for them. And then some other types of use that might be as well. Possibly a lake, you know, straight down the lake, the walk around and walking trails is a part of that. And so we just listed out a couple of different options as a part of that. We also listed out more. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he also mentioned, the survey also said that Fairhope need higher age group too. So what are you doing for the older one? They're like our neighbor who's handicapped. She can't participate in all the social. So she could. But what about now some of the gardens would be good for that?
Absolutely.
There are already 2 proposed gardens in town. One behind the Galen Center and one at Homestead Village Center. I'll get that should be. So I do not foresee us putting a community garden on this piece of property in particular, just because it was purchased for recreation.
Do you think maybe the existing rec center that we have might be focused more on our age people?
I mean, that's a possibility to build something new, but I mean, it is mostly a lot of that fitness room and everything is focused on the indoor walking track.
So you're already in that fight still. There's nothing that's this big facility that really targets the
The fitness center would. And maybe if we do a walking track around the property, yeah, that certainly, that would be the worst. See,
We need to survey as far as which option people versus the other one. Pretty good.
I think it's going to be a combination,
That's Does anybody have any objections to what we're talking about so far? I said, so there's a meeting for parts. I think that was brought up in the public meeting very well by someone that said, hey, it's going to be a part of the so I just want to be clear about that.
No objection, I have a question, and,
Yes, sir.
will the airport affect this, or will this affect the airport, flight patterns, or anything like that, lighting or anything like that?
I mean, I can see it's the opposite, actually getting correction, but in the event of, this hybrid where it's, entertainment, you've got all this going on, you've got alcohol hotels, now you've got more, rooms where people stay, which could allow for larger events to happen in the Grand Hotel. I can see that it may increase air traffic. I don't know if that's just been brought into consideration with it being right across from 32, how that affects, that complex. If there's hotels, obviously hotels are going to be taller. How does that affect the flight patterns, anything like that? Maybe that is exactly what's coming here.
There's just a, and we have to map that, there's just a small section of the, that be in the flight patterns of the airport. It's right off of 32, it's just a small portion of it, so we just wouldn't put anything in the flight.
How do big sports complexes like this that you're describing affect the property values and homes around it?
It's funny, I was at American Society of Economics Conference last week, and they had a gentleman there that was talking about how much property managers go all around parks. It's a very good thing for. So I wouldn't bet that it's going negative terms. I remember exactly what the numbers were because I'm sure it varies from one location to the next. But I think that historically it's been something that was very positive for property managers. People want to live by parks, they want to build so it's a walk to the park. That's something we could have close by. So especially with people, who didn't have park sites now. I think that's a very good thing.
Subdivision right across the street.
Yes, we shut that out and we picked that up. All right, anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Sorry, it wasn't for it, it's a reminder, but for kind of surrounding subdivisions, would you all be looking at putting in sidewalks so there's accessibility from these neighborhood subdivisions, about high school, middle school, so people can get there, kids can get there easily, not even on 13, if you start getting all that traffic.
So that subdivision that's going in now, where you build, they'll have to build sidewalks in front of there, all the way, what's that, 34? So I have to build all the way to 34. So we'll have to build it all the way around the power park. So there is just some gaps in both of us. It's probably partnership with single path.
Yes.
Light pollution, or hotels, how much light pollution will be?
That's I work on the Wire Road facility, this large shopping complex over in Alton, and there's a neighborhood right next door, and you can actually get the lights that are shining, so you don't get the light pollution that they have.
Pretty directional.
They're very directional now. A lot of treatments with that. So luckily, that's something that can be addressed real well. In addition to that, we put some screening materials so that brings next door, for a little bit more of a buffer there as well. So that combination, picking up the right kind of lights, directional, the screening, those two things really help to put the situation better.
I think you're on the of that.
Yeah, to be honest, we get a lot of comments now about how dark things are like downtown. In places because the lighting technology has changed so much. There's not as much spread and there's not as much light pollution because it wasn't proper for people. So now everything's very directional and it's actually pretty dark. When you see that on the pier, you see it probably in the small sports fields, you see it all around town. Have to add more light or change the type of light you're using to get a little bit more spread and what the technology we have now.
They can actually map it on, show you what break off is, how with the lights, and how much light is put panels for each of the different areas there. So that's the great technology that we have now, take advantage of. So we'll certainly do that. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, we've been going on for a little bit of time. So, yeah, great feedback. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. The next step will be again to the right boards and city council to get together, kind of look at what the plan is, decide maybe which direction they want to move in, if they want to take more community input. So you'll still hear more about this and what's going on, but that'll be the next.
Yeah, and really for us, the next step, and they should get that kind of positive feedback, if we're moving into conceptual planning, kind of the law of magnitude of what the cost would be, and like, so something's architectural rendering, so of the building and the architectural components of the site. And that'll complete our section of the study. The next step would be construction documents and kind of break it out, by portion. Areas by phase.
Is there a targeted approval date? It's targeted approval timeline when y'all trying to.
There's not right now. We need to sit down and look at it. And again, on this property in particular, I was hoping it's going to be so expensive to build out. I didn't like it would be phased. Just my opinion alone is that the first phase of it will be the gym space, because that's what we get the most comments about just around town for anything. And you can use it for indoor, you can use it for indoor pickleball, volleyball, basketball. If you need to take a baseball, you can do archery. And there's all kinds of stuff you can do indoor and indoors. That's not.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for that. So special large parks, 14 acres, that's good.
I don't foresee us spending $100 million right off the bat.
Well, we're hoping for donation.
Yeah. You can get grants for trails, or like, the park that we're doing, Flying Creek Nature Reserve, that kind of stuff. For this type of stuff, it's hard to get recreation grants for like dog parks and that kind of stuff, because those are kind of perks. The package trails that are good for community health and economic development. I mean, this is too, but that's probably right. You have to take the economic development more than anything else.
Walter, are you still there? Thank you, Walter.
I'm here.
I don't know how much you could hear of that, but we closed that all out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hope you have a good night.
You too. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Mayor
Okay.
Sullivan.
Okay. I guess we're going to take care, Walter.
All right. Thanks,
to you
guys.
later.
Bye-bye. All right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.